piece of mine. So that's perfectly up to you. Okay, so I'm having to read from paper. So the book is called Letters from Our Dreams, and it's a bunch of flash fictions, 20 by me, 20 by my husband, and it has pictures in it. And I'm going to read you three very short stories right now. Dreamer's Delight. If you've ever found yourself on the boring end of an afternoon with relatives, or stuck in an office with the deadliest of bores, the Dreamer's Delight could be just what you're looking for. Simply attach it to any hard surface, including tables, walls, lampshades, or the underside of a chair. Press the purple button in the centre and enjoy. Select the PG Woodhouse option, for example, and the dull room will transform into a fabulously 20s drawing room, or a nightclub complete with jaunty background music. You'll still understand what your companions are saying, but with a few added ballyhoops and rathers. If you want to spice up your routine walk home, attach the button to your coat and select Cloud. Your surroundings will become a Technicolor nightmare. With clowns leaping from bright pink bushes or dangling from wibbly jelly trees. Alternatively, you could select Safari and make it home just before the hungry lion snaps at your heels. If you find driving or public transport a snooze, why not select Space Odyssey and shoot into the stars? Or become a professional racing driver? Warning, do not exceed 15 hours and allow 2 days use between jaunts. Side effects may include loss of identity and ability to tell delight from reality. The Dreamer's Delight does not attach to moving objects of flesh such as foreheads or knees. Okay. Story 2. Spats. I admired my wife while she sat at the dressing table, applying rouge to her cheeks and ruby red to her lips. It was misleading to say she was dressed in the height of fashion, because she was so often the one leading it, with her perfectly symmetrical bob and designer dresses. Our room was decorated with a lush white carpet and black Art Deco furniture, and the walls were lined with Otto Dix, Aaron Douglas, and a framed Gertrude Stein poem. We'd get stick for it, guests would read it aloud sarcastically, but it was all in good fun, and they'd realise its merits one day. It was the price one paid for being ahead of the times. My wife sat back and, eyes on her reflection, said in a bored tone, "I really don't see the point, you know." She started saying things like this recently, and I was getting mighty sick of it. I brushed down my dinner jacket and slipped on my spats. They were a little overboard for intimate company, but I loved to show them off. "Darling, I wish you'd try to enjoy yourself." She turned to me, eyes aflame. "Don't darling me. I don't know you. We don't know each other." I sighed and tried to look understanding. "We've been married for 25 years. We've built all this up together," I said, indicating the townhouse and everything in it. "I let you have those artists and writers over, don't I?" "I don't know," she mumbled. "Do you?" She was being silly now, just trying to ruin things. I headed to the dining room before I could lose my temper. "Jolly good job, Terence," I said to the butler as he oversaw the staff scurrying to decorate the table. The candle holders were decorated with mistletoe and evergreen, and potted poinsettias stood proudly in the centre. Despite being unseasonably warm, it felt like a true Christmas celebration. My wife sauntered in, barely giving it a glance. "Siobhan, darling, you look wonderful." She did, in her black and white dress and matching headpiece. "Thank you. Well done, everybody." The staff beamed with pride, and I felt tremendous guilt that they should have to scramble for breadcrumbs from her. There was a knock at the door. The guests were arriving. First were the Smiths, then the Jameses and the Michelsons, then finally the jazz singer Booker Jones. He was my wife's choice, and I reluctantly indulged her. I enjoyed his company, but he was just the sort of teddy bear funny man I knew she liked. Of course, they made a beeline for each other, sipping cocktails and giggling like children. I distracted myself by discussing the Lempica guarding the fireplace with the Michelsons. Finally, dinner was announced, and we took our seats. Cream of tomato soup was the first course. "Are you not having croutons, darling?" I asked. "I don't like them," she said, waving the maid away. "Since when?" "Since always." I refused to accept this. She was making some sort of pointless protest against me when I'd given her everything. "Nonsense. You've always loved them." "Maybe I wasn't me before," she said, eyebrow raised. I sat back. She wanted a scene, she would get it. "I see. This is some dreary new woman statement, is it? Today croutons, tomorrow bloomers." She snorted humorlessly, her cheeks reddening. "Hey," said Booker, "maybe she just doesn't feel like croutons." Typical American, I thought. It wasn't about the croutons. Our other guests looked suitably awkward. "They serve the most divine oysters at the club, don't they, George? Wonderfully buttery," said Frida Michelson. The others looked about to join in when Siobhan picked up her drink. "I've never liked croutons," she said archly. "That must have been one of the others." She sipped. The silence was like a heavy blanket. "Jacob ain't got time for an affair," said Booker, and I felt surprisingly grateful. He barely has time for new shoes. There were a few repressed giggles, and I realised that my favourite spats must have been a topic of conversation. I hated them all. "I didn't mean that," said Siobhan. "He dreams me up. He dreams all of us up. I suppose I must be slightly different every time. No doubt I'll be some subservient girl he rescued from the gutter next time." "Shut up, for God's sake," I sputtered gracelessly. "I don't mean he's asleep. He's probably sitting on a threadbare couch in holy pants." "I say, is this some sort of dinner theatre?" said George desperately. "No," said Siobhan. "We'll all start disappearing in a minute." "She's gone mad," I blurted. "George, Sam, hold her down when I run to the phone." They stayed put, eyes like saucers. The maid and the soup had vanished, and the same was happening to the crockery. "Honey, I love you, but there's no way I'm disappearing into the eve before you," said Booker, and darted to the door. "There's nothing out there," said Siobhan. "I'll take my chances," he said, and was gone. "What do we do?" shrieked Maud Smith, and the Jameses followed Booker's suit. "We wait," said Siobhan, and raised her glass in salute. Without knowing what else to do, my game having been well and truly rumbled, I raised my glass along with her. Last one. This is called Hoarding. We arrived at the little house on Broad Street and filmed our entrance with the host, Alice Dunaway, several times until Maisie didn't look freaked out by the cameras. It was a good choice. Her place was absolutely full of shit, and she didn't see a problem with any of it. "I'm a little untidy," she said. "It's only really a problem when I drop something." We knew a good quote when we heard one. We managed to get a few inches into the hallway when Alice, ever the sensitive, asked if she knew what led to this. "Things just got away from me," said Maisie breezily. "No, really, why do you think you let this happen? It was perfect. We had a sensitive ask for the camera reel, but the slight hint of blame was enough to start the tears and wouldn't be making the cut." "I guess," said Maisie, shrugging, before her shoulders collapsed and shook with sobs. "It happened at college." "What happened at college, love?" Alice put an arm round her. "That's when I lost it." "Lost what?" Maisie looked up, face tear-streaked and full of anguish. "My common sense, all of it. Not a bit left." It was an unusual response, but Alice rolled with it. "And what do you think caused that?" "I think I left it at a party." Now we were getting to it, sob story coming up. "Did something happen at that party?" "Yes," Maisie wept, looking frustrated. "I lost my common sense." "Right, but..." Then that's when we had another look at the junk in the hallway. It looked like pieces of big bed. I don't know how these got here, said Macy. They just keep appearing. They can't even tell the time properly. She pushed her way upstairs and led us to the boiler, where she yanked the door open. These can see into the future, she said, tears still in full flow, but they can't tell you anything. That's useless. She sobbed as we gaped at the eyes floating up and down in some invisible liquid. One particularly blue one stared at me until she pointed at the meter reader. If you look into that, it'll show you your death. Scoffing, I stepped forward, pretending I was totally used to the camera being trained on me. I peered in, seeing grainy flip images like the peep show of a man in a rowboat on the sea. I was going on a cruise next week. I pulled back quickly. Can't see anything. Macy nodded understandingly. Here, she said, opening the door to one of the bedrooms, is a bunch of Parisian artists. I tried to catch them climbing in the window, but they never do. They're just there. They shrieked as one when they saw us. Please, said one, just a brush, a pencil, anything. I told you, Macy said. You know what happens. You get supplies on Christmas and that's it. We fought our way back through various monument parks downstairs, a spike from the Statue of Liberty almost impaling Alice. Our usual prods to get her to talk weren't working. She just followed Macy, pale-faced. Macy shoved the door to the front room open and pointed to the fireplace and a large pile of children's shoes. Another fell from the chimney, slapping loudly onto the others and causing a small avalanche. I tried selling them at a boot sale, said Macy, but no one wants them. It gets so cold in here, but you can't light a fire. Why? Alice said. You could scoop them all out long enough to warm yourself, maybe. Macy shook her head and pointed upwards. We each had a look up the chimney spout, my heart thumping at the sight of the giant nostril. I pulled back when it sniffed. A duck quack made us turn as one towards the dining table, where a butler polished a bird. I've asked him to clean everything else, said Macy sadly, but he only scrubs wildlife. Can you get me out of here? He said hoarsely. Don't listen to him, Macy hissed. He'll trick you. Where did he come from? Said Alice. Macy shrugged, then pointed at the bookcase. This used to be full of my favourites. Now look. Every single item was a copy of Big Toes that looked like Salman Rushdie magazine. I think that's it, she said. Oh, apart from the galaxy and the cutlery drawer and things like that. She looked at us hopefully. So, do you think you can help? Okay, so that's my flash fictions. Thanks very much. So the book